This program has been made possible in part by the following sponsors. The Trial Lawyers Association of BC. The Vancouver Courier newspaper. My new book about addictions, All the Way Home, Building Recovery That Works. Here's one of the first rules of life. If the City of Vancouver and all the mayors of the Lower Mainland and the province and the Premier and the Vancouver Sun all agree on a plan of action, then you know it's pretty well bound to be wrong. However, don't say that in public, because then all the Chicken Littles come out of the woodwork and, oh my God, the sky is falling. That's what the city transportation director said in the press today. He said, if we say no, the world as we know it will stop. Forget about ISIS, forget about ISIL, forget about measles outbreaks, forget about a pestilence and frogs and so on. Transportation, no it won't. No, it won't. We could revisit this a year from now, after TransClunk cleans itself up. Now, the guy who said no most loudly has been personally attacked and excoriated in the Sun yesterday by a columnist, and his name is Jordan Bateman, and he is the BC director of the Canadian Taxpayers Federation, and he has crawled out of his little office in Regina, apparently. I didn't know you had an office in Regina. Jordan, you're the king of the no on this transit vote, so run your story, please, because I have changed sides. When I had the mayor of North Van here on this show, and we reran it last week, when he was on about a month and a half, 2 months ago, to me it was just interesting information. I was sort of going along with it. The more I thought of it, the more I thought of how much disrespect I have for TransClunk, the more I decided I'm with you.
Yeah, well, and that's the real problem here, is TransLink is one of the most wasteful, maybe the most wasteful organization we have in British Columbia, and their sins are legendary. You know, we can talk about a bunch of them.
Please, run the list.
One of my favorites is, and this is a small amount of money, but the Main Street Poodle on a Pole. So at Main and 16th in Vancouver, TransLink cut a check for $30,000 towards a 7-foot-tall statue of a poodle that sits on top of a 20-foot pedestal in the middle of this neighborhood where there isn't even a major transit stop. But this was their idea of spending money. They spent $500,000 to install 13 television screens at SkyTrain stations. That's $40,000 a TV. And when we went and checked them a year after they were installed, only 4 were working. TransLink then, you know, set their hair on fire and accused us of lying, because actually they said 6 were working.
How big are they?
Of the 13.
How big are they?
Oh, they're like your normal 42-inch. You can go pick them up from Best Buy for a few $100 now.
Yeah, well, exactly.
This is what TransLink does.
Yeah.
The executives, you know, TransLink is a transit system. You would think that the executives who are running the transit system might actually use it. No, they share about $100,000 in car allowances every year. The head of TransLink gets paid $468,000, far more than the Prime Minister of Canada, more than the Premier, more than the Deputy Minister of Transportation, and more than what people who run the transit agencies in Montreal, Toronto, Portland, and Seattle get paid. In fact, more than what the Seattle and Portland CEOs get paid combined.
Combined. How many executives at TransLink are in 6 figures?
There's about almost 450 employees at TransLink make 6 figures or more. That includes...
Excuse me, I need you to say that again.
Almost 450 employees at TransLink make 6 figures or more.
That's sick.
And what they do is they bury it. They have all these subsidiaries, right? So
yes.
Some are at Coast Mountain Bus, some are at the BC Rapid Transit Company, some were at AirCare. They've just, you know, the province killed them.
But burying it, Jordan, burying it is a disease of politicians. Did you notice how Todd Stone said last week, I know what we'll do with that 0.5% new tax. We'll just squeeze it into the existing tax,
Exactly.
you won't feel a thing, baby. It's just an inoculation.
Exactly, and this is the problem, right? So they're making this up as they go along. So 6 weeks ago when they announced the ballot, Todd Stone makes a big deal about how it needs to be a separate tax. And of course, you and I know the reason for that. It's so the Liberals can point to the mayors and say, this was your fault, not ours. Now, once the actual ramifications, which we highlighted, came out, which was some of these little businesses were going to face like $8,000 or $9,000 bills to add a third tax to their point of sale system. And they started to complain, oh my gosh, we better just lump it into this PST.
Could we remind everybody that this is the only so-called rapid transit system on the planet that started with an honor system for the tickets? And you know what the result of that was? We have drug dealing centers now at Broadway and Commercial and at King George Station. Those places as drug centers did not exist until TransClunk said, oh, we'll just trust you to buy a ticket.
Yeah, and they've lost about $250 million since the year 2000 in fare evasion.
And how many years did it take us of complaining to say, would you please install a ticket system that requires that people pay?
Well, amazingly, the Liberals announced in the 2009 election, finally, after, 25 years of the system running, that they were going to contribute towards fare gates at TransLink. TransLink made a big deal installing the first fare gates in 2011. We're now at 2015. The things still aren't operating. They're not going to operate till the end of next year. They're $25 million over budget. They're years late, and now they want you to pay $7.5 billion more.
And what is this system that I don't understand? Because I don't use the buses a lot, but when I do, I just put in my whatever it is. What is it? 2 1/4? No, I can't remember. Whatever it is, 275. And I just put it in. But what is this thing that doesn't work?
So well, that is called the Compass card. It ties into the fare gates, and eventually we'll all get these cards, and you'll load it up like a Starbucks card, and you'll tap it when you get on a bus, and you'll tap it when you get off.
Wait a minute, you mean when I get on the bus, I'll get a cappuccino?
No, if only. Don't you dare bring a cappuccino on a bus. People get upset with you. But if you tap it and then you tap off, and the idea is, well, first of all, they'll be able to track how people are traveling and whatnot, but they'll also be able to see who's paying and who isn't. Problem is, this thing is years late. $25 million, probably more, over budget, and they really have no ability to actually get the system up and running because TransLink has mismanaged it so badly.
The only good thing I've heard about TransClunk in the last 5 years is that I think on 31 buses as an experiment for 6 months, why don't they just make a decision? They're going to put up plexiglass so the driver isn't attacked.
Well, and this is one of the big complaints. I hear from a lot of bus drivers, many of whom don't support this tax, by the way. And they'll say to me, we've talked a lot about safety issues, and TransLink is the only agency in Canada that has their own police force, the only transit agency. And this police force, though, ride the SkyTrain lines and very rarely venture onto the buses. They virtually left these poor bus drivers defenseless on these buses. And I don't blame a bus driver for not enforcing a fare when some crazy crackhead or someone gets on it, or some aggressive person gets on and doesn't want to pay. They've got to keep the safety of the people.
I'm sorry, Jordan, safely. You cannot say crazy crackhead.
I can't?
In this community.
I'm sorry.
That's not a nice
They
thing.
had a very rough upbringing.
You're talking shame language.
I don't have a lot of respect for people who steal from honest taxpayers, and when you take a free ride, that's what you're doing. You're stealing from the honest taxpayer and the honest rider who's sitting next to you and actually paid.
Were you not brought up to believe that in a democratic society, people had the right to express their opinions? Sometimes people go crazy and go overboard and say really ugly, horrible things, and then we have to deal with rights and freedoms and so on. But when you come out in public and say, we don't think this is a good tax, is there some reason why you and your organization should be viciously attacked as aliens from another planet?
It doesn't amaze me when the mayors do it, because they're politicians, elected class, that's what they do. It amazes me when reporters do it, because I went to Langara College. I trained as a journalist under Francis Beulah and people like that. And it bothers me in a day and age where they put on their Twitter thing, Je suis Charlie. I believe in freedom of speech, to the point where you can actually offend other religions. And I believe in freedom of speech too. And have, Je suis Charlie. I get it. And yet, we dare to oppose this tax, and so they slime us that we're from Regina. I've been to Regina twice. That's where our head office is. I mean, it's ridiculous.
What, in your opinion, what would happen if your side, if the no side wins? Do you think the world will come to an end as we know it?
Carmageddon will be a disaster. The meteorite will hit, and we'll also... No.
Tom Cruise will be brought in, along with Bradley Cooper.
Yeah, we'll need Bruce Willis to catch the asteroid.
There'll be creatures walking down the street made out of metal, and
Here's what would happen.
Yeah.
And this is really important for people to understand. Surrey Light Rail, there's 3 big projects in this plan. 2 of them will be built, no matter what.
Oh.
The Surrey Light Rail project, the mayor of Surrey, Linda Hepner, said flat out, I have a plan B.
Yes.
I'll get private developers to help pay for it. We'll do a public-private partnership, and we will get light rail up and running by 2018 with or without this tax.
Let's be clear about this. The mayor of this city, his happiness, has said there is no plan B.
Exactly. He's lying.
And it's not the truth.
He's lying.
Okay.
There is a plan B for the Surrey Light Rail. For the Patello Bridge, it's a toll bridge. Even if this tax goes through, you're getting taxed and you're paying a toll for that bridge. That bridge could start tomorrow. Even the vice president of strategic planning for TransLink, surely an oxymoron, strategic planning and TransLink, he said flat out, we don't need the referendum for this. This can go ahead.
Yes.
But the mayors have lumped it in to try to trick drivers into paying for it. So 2 of the 3 projects, it's only Mayor Robertson who, after a decade in leadership in this city, has failed his people by not coming up with a different plan for that.
We've got 2 minutes to break. Let's talk bridges. So, Pattullo Bridge, I went over the Pattullo Bridge once 50 years ago. I've never gone, no, I'm serious.
It hasn't changed much.
I've never gone over it again.
Yeah.
I will never go over it again.
Yeah.
It baffles me that in 50 years, nobody's figured out we got to replace that.
Yeah.
Every Tuesday, I come back over the Lionsgate Bridge, and it goes from 20 minutes to an hour to come down Taylor Way and get onto the bridge and get into the park, okay? I don't see any plan about twinning the bridge, doubling the bridge, building some kind of causeway. What?
Well, the truth is, Mayor Robertson would probably like to take a grenade and blow up these bridges to keep people out of Vancouver, or force us to take boats and transit and bicycles down.
Bicycle across the water.
Yeah, exactly. And that's his political ideology.
Yes.
We disagree. We think people deserve to have freedom of movement. And, if they want to cross the bridge, heaven forbid, let's let them cross the bridge.
Truck drivers and other commuters are now doing everything they can to avoid the Port Mann because they don't want to pay $6 a day going back and forth to work. To me, it's relatively meaningless because I cross that bridge maybe, 5 times a year.
Yeah.
So I don't care. I have never gone over the Golden Ears Bridge and never will.
Yeah.
I'm not paying a toll to get to Maple Ridge. Excuse me.
Don't pick on Maple Ridge. Pick on Pitt Meadows. They support the plan.
I think Maple Ridge should pay me to go there.
Yeah, I don't understand the economic development arguments behind making it more expensive for people to move from community to community. If I were a merchant in downtown Vancouver, I would be very upset with my mayor for making things more difficult for people to come into Vancouver to shop.
We're going to take a little break, and when we come back, we're going to pick up these lovely themes. The subject is the transit. It's not even a referendum; it's a plebiscite. It has no bindingness to it. We got make a bad joke about binding. Okay, we're away. This is your opportunity to send emails, hate mails, of course, to davidberner.com, and also opportunity for those lovely folks who support us to say hello here on Shaw Community Television, Cable 4. Back in a moment with the No Guy. This program has been made possible in part by the following sponsors. The Trial Lawyers Association of BC. The Vancouver Courier newspaper. My new book about addictions, All the Way Home, Building Recovery That Works. Stephen Hume, the columnist for the Vancouver Sun, doesn't even live in the Lower Mainland. He lives over on the island, and he's a good writer, and I've always admired his work. But when I read his attack yesterday on the Canadian Taxpayers Federation, I just about fell out of my chair. I couldn't believe it. But he's good enough that today he published all the people like me, all the emails he got. He must have gotten thousands of them. Here's one. It says, TransLink should be open to public scrutiny, but even if the entire executive was eliminated, the effect on the bottom line would be negligible. Now look, for many years, when I spent my years in talk radio, I ranted and raved endlessly about a secret organization called the GVRD. Yep. Remember them?
Yep.
Yeah.
Metro Vancouver
Metro
now.
Vancouver now.
By their official name.
But I mean, GVRD was so non-transparent. Yeah. And just as if we needed another non-transparent organization, along comes TransClunk, which is like, is there a secret handshake for TransClunk?
Who knows? They've never met in public. So the TransLink board of directors are appointed by a bunch of different people, including the government, and they meet in secret. They, in fact, have more than, we think they have at least six boards of directors, maybe 7, that operate all these different TransLink companies.
What?
49 different directors involved in running these companies. And some of them get retainers of as much as $100,000 a year.
Yes.
And yet, you know, if you and I sat here and tried to name them all, I mean, and we're very educated, we've been following this file for years, it would be almost impossible to do it because they are so hidden away and so secretive about the way they run.
And why is that? Why do they do this?
Well, this is the biggest problem, right? You know, firing the executives, would that fund a $250 million a year sales tax? No, but you know what it would do? It would change the organizational culture. And this is the problem. They've been allowed to be secretive and heavy-handed and waste this money without any kind of ramifications. In fact, they get bonuses every year, the executives, for the way they've been running TransLink. Audits have proven they're inefficient, and these audits don't even dig into the actual program spending. I mean, these are just high-level kind of views. So there's this system that's grown up that's allowed them to operate in the dark, in the shadows. The mayors kind of monitor them off the side of their desk, but mayors are busy with, you know, their real job, representing their communities. And now all of a sudden, they wonder why this culture has gone bad as a corporation. Well, it's because they're secretive.
Can you and I agree that we do need all kinds of things in terms of transportation in this community? We do need better and more bridges. We do need to clean up some roads. We do need more buses. We probably need, I don't believe we need more subways or more SkyTrains, but we certainly need some light rail and so on. We agree we need all that. And even as taxpayers, we're happy to pay for that, okay? We just think that the people we're going to give this money to are irresponsible. Yeah,
well, they've proven they're irresponsible. Remember Dr. Phil, you know, past behavior predicts future behavior. We don't need to work. We don't need to, you know, really extend ourselves to think about how TransLink will deal with this money. We know they'll waste it because they've wasted so much money before. But
maybe we should take his slogan. TransLink, how's that working for you?
Exactly. But, you know, you're right. And we actually came up with a plan that they could fund their entire mayor's plan without raising our sales tax. And what we did is, it's actually at NOTRANSLINKTAX.CA/better-plan. So the next time you hear the mayor of Vancouver say we don't have a plan, he's lying. We do. This better plan essentially would earmark 0.5% of the future 4.8% annual growth rate that municipalities are expecting to get in all their revenues. It would earmark it to transportation. And it would actually generate more money for transportation than the sales tax would. And you know, they looked at us like we had, you know, kicked a puppy. Like, how dare you, you know, suggest we earmark some of our revenue growth? Well, you still have 4.3% more every single year to spend on your bike paths, Mary Robertson, or your, you know, other important infrastructure, policing, and all that. You still have all that money to spend. But we're just asking you, if this is the most important regional priority, if you want us to pay a tax for it, why weren't you willing to earmark 0.5% of future growth?
Chip Wilson has the most expensive house in British Columbia. It's on Point Grey Road. The apparent value is $54.5 million. And the mayor...
It's a tough life, eh?
Yeah, what's that?
Tough life, eh?
Yeah, and the mayor gave him a private road, which used to be a public road. Okay, now I don't call that democracy. And I spent years driving that road to and from work. I never found a traffic congestion problem. I've never hit a bicyclist or a pedestrian. Why should one of the richest guys in the province have a public road suddenly become a private road? This is what I think of the mayor in terms of what he does with transportation. Go to the corner of Cornwall and Cypress and talk to the people who have small restaurants and shops there, and they will tell you that the mayor's bicycle initiatives have destroyed their businesses. And yet, he had 2 women last week standing on that corner asking people on his behalf, do you feel the bicyclists are in danger? No.
Yeah.
It's the businesses and the rest of us who are in danger.
I mean, the Hornby bike lane, right? They produced a report a year or 2 after the Hornby bike lane went in and said only minor, inconvenience to the businesses. And the businesses have lost millions of dollars.
Minor?
Yeah. And
tell that to Van der Zam's son who owns the nursery.
Exactly.
Wim Van der Zam, I'm sure, would love to blow the building up.
Yeah, and so, they slough off this thing because they have a distinct ideology.
Yes.
Peter Ladner, who's a big supporter of this plan.
I know, I was shocked.
He came out this week in a tweet and said, we need to vote yes so we can stop car terrorism.
What is that?
Well, it's people like you and I who dare to drive a car. We're clearly terrorists, terrifying people on the streets.
Well, I hate to be, multifunctional, but I do ride a bike, I do walk, and I do drive a car. Is that okay?
Yeah, I have 3 kids. I have to have a minivan, right?
Is it okay that I do that? And so far, I'm lucky I haven't collided with anybody.
Yeah, and for your trouble, you pay 22 cents a liter in gas taxes that eventually get their way to TransLink. You pay a 21% parking tax that goes to TransLink. You pay $22.80 a year on your hydro bill that goes to TransLink.
Yes.
Why? Who knows? You pay a 21% parking tax. I mean, all these different ways they reach into your pocket. In fact, the independent transit commissioner, when we used to have one, said TransLink has the best set of tax tools of any transportation system in the country, and yet they still can't make it work. And you want to know why?
Because?
Mismanagement.
Mismanagement. So let's say that the no side wins. Yeah. By the way, let's say the yes side wins. It's still up to the premier, isn't it, whether or not we do anything? It's not an automatic, is it?
Well, these big projects rely on a third provincial and a third federal funding, and they don't have agreements on either, except for the Patello Bridge.
Okay.
So the Patello Bridge would get built. Surrey Light Rail, we think, would get built because the mayor said she has a plan B. Everything else would be kind of in the air.
And how, if I wanted to, could I vote yes? I'm not going to. But how could I vote yes, except I don't want a subway under Broadway?
Hey, you can't.
I want light rail.
It's all or nothing. And the Arbutus subway, if I was a business owner along Broadway, I would look at what happened on Cambie very carefully. I'd be very worried.
I would interview Susan Hayes, who won her lawsuit against these folks and then had it torn away by a reversal in the Supreme Court.
And that should send chills down anyone's spine who's on any of these routes that could see this kind of cut and cover.
Okay, so let's say the no side wins. What might all of these good people, these honorable men, as Mark Anthony would say, what might they do 6 months from now or a year from now?
Well, the day after the referendum, the Stephen Humes of the world will wake up and realize, oh my God, the world didn't end, but what caused us to be defeated? And you know what they're going to come back to is no one trusts TransLink. And they'll fix TransLink. It'll be the ultimate smack in their face. They'll go and change TransLink. They'll fix it. They'll get rid of some of these executives who have driven this thing to the ground. They'll find ways to save money and hopefully rebuild the trust. Meanwhile, the light rail in Surrey will get built. The Patello Bridge will get greenlit. You can actually take some of the money and put it that gets saved in future efficiencies at TransLink. You can put it into bus routes that are absolutely needed because they're fairly inexpensive as compared to the Arbutus subway.
Yes.
Things will move on. Things will continue to happen. Hopefully the mayor of Vancouver then will wake up and say, well, I guess we got to find our own way to do an Arbutus subway. What will happen is he'll try to find a cheaper way to do it, which is exactly what he should be trying to do.
Yeah. Will it be the end of a number of careers?
I certainly hope so. At the TransLink headquarters? Yeah, absolutely.
But no, besides that, what about all these mayors who are on the bandwagon?
The mayors are going to spend $5 million taxpayer dollars to try to get a yes vote.
Yeah, the mayors are going to spend a lot of money. Is it their money out of their pockets?
It's our money.
It's our money. They're going to spend our money to get a yes vote. How much are you spending?
Our budget's $40,000. We'll be outspent 125 to 1.
The Canadian Taxpayers Federation. You're spending.
The total campaign will be $40,000, yeah. And we just don't have more money than that.
How dare you? How dare you spend
It's an affront to democracy.
Yeah, and you don't even say where you get your money.
Yeah, well.
You get it from commies, don't you?
Yeah, no. Well, you know what? The funny thing about this campaign is there's people who have signed up to vote no and who would never in a million years give the Canadian Taxpayers Federation the time of day, but they know this is a bad deal. And I don't care about the CTF stuff. They can say whatever they want about me and the organization.
Yes.
The fact of the matter is this referendum is about TransLink. It's about the way they've wasted money. It's about a leaking bucket and wanting to pour billions of dollars more money into it and seeing it all spread out.
Yeah, you've got a teenage kid who's blowing the family fortune, and you say, I know, Jackie, how we can help you. Yeah. Let's give you more money.
Because he's a good kid.
Yeah, he's a fresh-faced kid. Let's give him a break.
Exactly.
When is this supposed to happen? It's a plebiscite.
It's a plebiscite, mail-in ballot. They arrive March 16th, apparently, although, David, there are no rules yet from Elections BC on this. The Elections BC refers you to the Minister of Transportation. Think about having road builders running elections. That's what we have here.
Yes, yeah.
It's a gong show in Victoria. It's a gong show at TransLink headquarters. Yes. But apparently March 16th to May 29th, we'll be able to vote.
Mail in, as in we're supposed to put this back in the post?
Exactly. Well, it'll be like the HST, which, if you remember, was great for the envelope industry because he had like 5 different envelopes he had to deal with. That's how it'll be for this.
So we have to ask who got the envelope contract?
Yeah, well,
who got the printing contract?
Whoever it is.
Is it the Premier's cousin? I mean, whose cousin got the contract?
Yeah, whoever it is will be doing fine, that's for sure.
Aside from the fact that you're dedicated to the no vote, do you have a sense of what's really happening on the street?
Well, the polls are even. Now, the funny thing is, the more these groups, big government, big labor, big union, big green, big business, the more they gnash their teeth and fight, and the more taxpayer money they spend, I think the more suspicious taxpayers become.
I hope so.
And certainly the passion is on our side. I mean, go to any of the, Stephen Hume does a hatchet job on us. The comments are 80-20 in favor of our side. So the people are passionate about this. We're hoping they'll understand that they have to reach out to their friends and neighbors because we don't have the campaign budget. We don't have millions of taxpayer dollars to spend. We need them to go out and be ambassadors and to encourage their friends and neighbors to vote no.
Jordan, we're out of time. I'm 72 years old. Sometime before I vacate these premises, this earth, maybe I'll see a government program that I can get behind. But I haven't seen one yet.
Don't hold your breath, David.
Thanks. Okay, that's it for us, kids. That was a lot of fun, I think, for us anyway. Thanks for being with us. And next week, surprise! I haven't found a guest for next week, but I will, and it'll be good. So join us then here on Shaw Community Television, Cable 4. Good night, and vote no.